Developing right now, Joint Base San Antonio is making security moves tonight in response to an act of terrorism at a Texas Naval air station. One sailor was shot and the gunman was killed at the facility in Corpus Christi. There are questions tonight about whether he acted alone. Just over an hour ago, we received a statement that reads in part, out of an abundance of caution, the Joint Base San Antonio commander is implementing random security measures. Entry control personnel are also taking additional personal protective measures. Meantime, tonight, Matt Doherty shares what we know about the investigation into the attack.
Attention all units, receiving reports from the Naval Air Station that they have an active shooter on base. Repeat, receiving reports from the Naval Air Station that they have an active shooter on base.
At 6:15 this morning, the FBI says a gunman tried to speed through a security gate at the Naval Air Station in Corpus Christi and opened fire.
A soldier has been shot and the suspect's down.
The female sailor who was shot was wearing body armor. She's been released from the hospital. The dead suspect has been identified as Adam Salim al-Salhi by several law enforcement sources speaking to CBS News. Al-Salhi is believed to be a U.S. citizen.
Is terrorism related?
Federal agents say they're still investigating the attack and warned of a possible second person connected to the case.
We may have a potential second related person of interest at large in the community.
Former FBI agent Byron Sage says authorities are building their web tonight, attempting to identify all of the suspects' associates.
Trying to find out known associates, any social media type activity that could develop leads